I'm Alicia Davis. I'm a sport researcher for the Adidas innovation team, and I work on basketball projects, so basketball sport researcher.
Yeah, my name is Robbie Fuller. I'm a category designer on Adidas basketball. All right, so loving the opportunity to present to you the adiZero Crazy Light. Literally going to work from the bottom to the top to let you know all the inside features and some of the stuff that's going on as far as the background and the building of this product. So if I literally start from the bottom, you'll see this complete smoothed out outsole, but there's quite a bit of tech that's involved. We've gone through and we know the high wear areas and wear areas that the traction and the wear is much more limited. So what we've done is put the thickest rubber around the outside edge in order to increase traction and durability. And then even gone in, and you'll see that there are multiple tractional surfaces. Here in the pivoting zone, you can see that it's more of a 360 approach for all those, for spin moves and that type of cutting style. And then along the kind of S-curve or spine, it's a really fine herringbone pattern. And what it does is it really limits the amount of surface area that the rubber has to the floor, which limits the amount of dust collection. So your traction, everybody when they play is always going to clean off their outsoles, but that just means that this traction is phenomenal and only going to get better every time you do this. Through this little zone here, you see that the heel has been broken up into two zones, and the same here in the forefoot. And what that is a banking concept, similar to cars with like independent suspension, so that the wheels can kind of manipulate to the ground, whether it's if it's uneven or not. When you go into a cut, it is uneven. This is what's going to touch the ground first, and then kind of roll over to this side. So you want to be able to have this groove down the middle that's going to help for the shoe to really hug on this zone and increase the amount of time that the traction, the rubber and the floor are touching, which is increasing the traction, and then it slows the rate that the shoe is going to come over to this side. And at that point, you have this really clean, more aggressive, almost like a touch traction pattern that is ready to to take on that new load and then go forward.
All right, working up from the traction, we have the midsole here. The midsole is the part of the shoe that's going to provide all the cushioning for the hard landings in the paint and the aggressive cuts. And this is an area, no matter how light we get on the shoe, we can't scrimp. So we've gone with a really high-end supplier, really high-quality EVA foam. It's a single density throughout the entire midsole, and it's actually a little bit lower than a conventional shoe. And we can get away with this because we're reducing the amount of layers in it, so it's going to be a really efficient cushioning system. It's decoupled, so the heel and the forefoot are decoupled, so we can have independent movement. And Robbie will talk a little bit about that with the sprint frame next. We test this to make sure that it can absorb the impact of a really high intensity movement and also give energy return in the forefoot. So overall, it's a pretty efficient cushioning system.
All right, let's keep going. Next up is sprint frame. All right, if you've seen adiZero Rose 1 or 1.5, or seen adiZero F50 or the Diamond King, all those shoes have had a sprint frame. If you're not familiar with what sprint frame is, most shoes have heel counters and they have some kind of midfoot support. What this does is combines the two into one piece. So being efficient like that, you're able to cut layers and cut weight and actually able to have a lot more control. On the control side, if you see, the shoe on this side comes to here, and then on the midfoot you can see that it dives down. It's a little bit shorter. So what that does, it makes it a lot stiffer to this side, if you look at it like this, and then much easier to go inside. And that's exactly what you're looking for when you play ball. You go into a cut, you want to be able to get down nice and low, but of course we all worry about rolling that ankle, so make sure that it's nice and stiff so that you don't get this rollover. That is one key awesome benefit. Second is just how light. Normally you pick up a shoe, you'll see it. There'll be an upper layer, and there'll be some glue and a heel counter, some kind of molded counter support. There'll be another layer of glue, there'll be foam, there'll be another layer of glue, there'll be lining, and then you have the sock liner. Sprint frame eliminates this construction of sprint frame by stitching the upper to the tooling, completely eliminates all those. All you end up with is the counter and the sock liner. A completely efficient system, which just that part saved us more than half an ounce on this shoe.
So moving right on up, 30 to 40% of the weight in a basketball shoe is in the upper, and so it's an area that we wanted to optimize. And we did that by creating Sprint Web. The Sprint Web is a less than 1 millimeter thick combination of a strong synthetic material seamlessly bonded to a nylon textile base. What this does is it provides strength in the areas we need support for lateral movements in the forefoot here, in the midfoot, and in the heel region, but takes away the areas that we don't necessarily need a lot of material to help cut down the weight. When we make a construction like this, everything is really important, even how the eyelets integrate down into the plate, so making sure that there's these strong connections the whole way along the upper, really trying to optimize the strength while maintaining a low weight.
Yeah, if I keep going, that's a lot of the tech. The shoe has been, and the upper has been completely designed asymmetrically. So if you'll notice, you'll see that the line, kind of runs through, and you'll see a kind of a unique design here. When you flip it over, the line stops, and there's a bit more of an open area. That's completely on purpose. What we find is, obviously, if the shoe is going to twist more one way than the other, then it's going to wrinkle more one way than the other, and that's allows for that kind of decoupling to happen on the inside of the shoe. Secondly, as far as the shoe is so asymmetrically designed, the foot is asymmetrically designed. That's a functional thing. But from a style point of view, I knew I wanted to kind of go in and bring a little bit more symmetry to it. For sure, when I look down at shoes, I always like for it to be a little more clean, maybe not so much all over the place. So 2 ways that we were able to achieve that. One was kind of going through with such an aggressive design. I went through and put more of a tonal block. This is sharp blue. It's going to be a promoted color within Adidas. You'll see it in a lot of shoes. We work with all the leading trend sites and with global forecasters to make sure that we're a step ahead of the game. So this sharp blue, you can see, almost has kind of a silk effect. That was completely inspired by the materials of the shoe. So we have a nylon sprint frame. For those at home, nylon, was invented as a synthetic replacement for silk. So I thought that's a really cool story to kind of bring into the upper, this kind of silk finish everywhere. Also makes it a little more aerodynamic as well. And then if you'll notice this kind of center line, that's another way to kind of offset the asymmetry look of the execution or of the construction, is to kind of bring in one symmetrical line that gives it a little more of kind of like a North Star or an easier way to look down at the shoe. Every single detail has been thought through. I mean, literally, circle eyelets way less than square eyelets. That's something that's even changed throughout this process. I'm sure online you'll be able to search around and try and find examples of the shoe through the stages, and that's what you should find, because this thing has gone through several stages to get to this point. We've learned ways not to build a shoe, and then finally we found the perfect way to build the lightest weight basketball shoe ever made.